I'm what you would call a collector of bootleg Pokemon games. Pokemon Diamond and Jade, Chaos Black, etc. It's amazing the frequency with which you can find them at pawn shops, Goodwill, flea markets and such. They're generally fun, even if they are unplayable, which they often are. The mistranslations and poor quality make them unintentionally humorous. I've been able to find most of the ones that I've played online, but there's one that I haven't seen any mention of. I bought it at a flea market about 5 years ago. Here is a photo of the cartridge in case anybody recognises it. Unfortunately, when I moved 2 years ago, I lost the game, so I can't provide you with screen caps. Sorry. The game had started with the familiar Nidorino and Gengar intro of Red and Blue. However, the press start screen had been altered. Red was there, but the Pokemon didn't cycle through. It also said Black version under the Pokemon logo. Upon selecting New Game, the game started the Professor Oak speech, and it became quickly evident that the game was essentially Pokemon Red. After selecting your starter, if you looked at your Pokemon, you had, in addition to Bulbasaur, Charmander or Squirtle, another Pokemon, Ghost. The Pokemon was level 1. It had the sprite of the ghosts that are encountered in Lavender Town before obtaining the Silph Scope. It had one attack, Curse. I know that there is a real move called Curse, but the attack did not exist in Generation 1, so it appears to be hacked in. Defending Pokemon were unable to attack Ghost. It would only say that they were too frightened to move. When the move Curse was used in battle, the screen would cut to black. The cry of the defending Pokemon would be heard, but it was disoriented, played at a much lower pitch than normal. The battle screen would then reappear, and the defending Pokemon would be long gone. If used in a battle against a trainer, when the Pokeballs representing their Pokemon would appear in the corner, they would have one fewer Pokeball. The implication was that the Pokemon died. What's even stranger is that after defeating a trainer and seeing Red receive $200 for winning, the battle commands would appear again. If you selected Run, the battle would end as it normally would. You could also select Curse. If you did, upon returning to the overworld, the trainer sprite would be gone. After leaving and re-entering the area, the spot where the trainer had once been would then be replaced with a tombstone, like the ones you would see at Lavender Tower. The move Curse was not usable in all instances. It would fail against Ghost-type Pokemon. It would also fail against the trainers you would have to fight on a repeat basis, like Giovanni or your rival. It was usable in your final battle against them, however. I figured that this was the gimmick of the game, allowing you to use the previously uncaptured ghosts, and because Curse made the game so easy, I essentially just used it throughout the entire adventure. The game had changed quite a bit after defeating the Elite Four. After viewing the Hall of Fame, which consisted of Ghost and a couple of Pokemon I had used for HMs, the screen then cut to black. A box appeared with the words, "Many years later." It then cut to Lavender Tower. An old man was standing, looking at tombstones. You would then realise this man was your character. The man moved at only half of your regular walking speed. You no longer had any Pokemon with you, not even Ghost, who up until this point had been impossible to remove from your party through depositing in the PC. The overworld was entirely empty, no people at all. There were still tombstones of the trainers you had used Cursed on, however. You could pretty much go anywhere in the overworld at this point, though your movement was limited by the fact you had no Pokemon to use HMs, and regardless of where you went, the music of Lavender Town continued on an infinite loop. After wandering for a while, I found that if you go through Diglett's cave, one of the cuttable bushes that normally blocks the path from the other side is no longer there, allowing you to advance and return to Pallet Town. Upon entering your home and going to the exact tile where you start the game, the screen would cut to black. Then a sprite of Caterpie appeared. It was then replaced by a Weedle, and then a Pidgey. I soon realised, as the Pokemon progressed from Rattata to Blastoise, that these were all of the Pokemon that I had used Cursed on. After the end of my rival's team, a youngster appeared, and then a Bugcatcher. These were the trainers I had cursed. Throughout the sequence, the Lavender Town music was still playing, but was slowly decreasing in pitch. But by the time your rival had appeared on screen, it was little more than a demonic rumble. Another cut to black a few moments later. The battle screen suddenly appeared. Your trainer sprite was now that of the old man, the same one that teaches you how to catch Pokemon in Viridian City. Ghost appeared on the other side with the words, "Ghosts wants a fight." You couldn't use items, you had no Pokemon, and if you tried to run, you couldn't escape. The only option was fight. Using fight would immediately cause you to use struggle, which didn't affect Ghost, but did chip a bit off your HP. When it was Ghost's turn to attack, it would simply say, ... Eventually, when your HP reached a critical point, Ghost would finally use Curse. The screen then cut to black for one final time. Regardless of the buttons you pressed, you were permanently stuck into this black screen. At this point, the only thing you could do was turn the Game Boy off. Once you booted up the game again, New Game was the only option. The game had erased the file. I played through this hacked game many times, and every time the game ended with this exact sequence. Several times I didn't even use Ghost at all, though he was impossible to remove from the party. In this case, it did not show any Pokemon or trainers. It simply cut to the climactic battle with Ghost. I'm not sure what the motives were behind the creator of this hack. It wasn't widely distributed, so it was presumably not for monetary gain. It was a very well done bootleg. It seems he was trying to convey a message, though it seems I am the sole receiver of this message. I'm not entirely sure what it was. The inevitability of death? The pointlessness of it? Perhaps he was trying to inject darkness and death into a children's game. Regardless, this children's game made me think, and it has made me cry. And that, my dogs, was Pokemon Creepy Black, a Pokemon haunted game creepypasta. My final thoughts on this story? Well, before we do that, I know what you're gonna say. Dark, you've already covered this story before, you covered it a while ago. And yeah, I did cover that story a year ago. However, I decided to remake it, simply for the fact that I can now use gameplay in the background, my voice is better for narration, I have better music, better sound effects, just everything's better. So for my thoughts and opinions, this story is alright. It's better than Lavender Town Syndrome and Pokemon Dead Channel, but overall it's nothing special. It's run-of-the-mill creepypasta related content. You wanted something scary or horrifying in a Pokemon game? This is the story for you. There's nothing really wrong with it, but then again it doesn't hit anything out of the park. It's very by the book. Although it does mention Lavender Town and rely on Lavender Town a ton, which understandably gets under my skin, because it seems that most creepypastas relating to Pokemon have to refer to Lavender Town at some point or another, and that annoys me. But anyways, if I was to give this story a final rating out of 10, I'm giving it a 5. It's standard by the book creepypastas, it didn't do anything wrong, it didn't hit it out of the park, and it didn't completely suck either. It's a standard creepypasta, that's all I can say. So, if you guys enjoyed the video and you'd like to see some more, Be sure to like, comment and subscribe because I'm on the road to 1000 subs, and hit the bell so you don't miss any more of my uploads. Alright, take care everybody.